and this is kind of special and amazing because I actually get to introduce my better half. Brandy moved down here about 4 years ago, and actually what's cool is William was actually probably the first person I told. I said, hey, I met somebody, from Wisconsin on the trip, and, we had the conversation, and then she ended up coming down, and he was one of the first people to meet her, and he's like, I like her, but, where are you going with this? Because you guys live so far apart, 8.5 hours apart, how is that going to work out? She was supposed to come down for a week. She ended up staying a month, and then we had one conversation. She's like, so what do you think about what I'm going into? And I'll let her kind of tell her story. But what do you think about what I'm going into? And this chart that I showed is kind of what I did. And I said, what you're planning on going into, have you looked up what it pays? And she's like, no. And she looked it up, and she was like, oh, that's depressing. And I said, if I show you this, I'm going to mess you up for life. So, at that point, she's like, what else can I do? And I've just been amazed. I ended up starting my natural doctor program, and she's like, I'm really interested in this too. And I wanted to be one of those people that would support somebody, but I don't want to push somebody anywhere. It was completely her initiative. A lot of times people actually think that it's me pushing her to do certain things, and I will tell you that is not the case at all. She has her own initiative, her own drive. She does it her way. She's a classic naturopathic practitioner at this point, and she's going to tell you some amazing things that she's been able to figure out by just taking the classes and doing stuff that's helped her. But what we're going to talk about now is one of the most important things is health. Overall health, being healthy, you're in front of people, you're building a team, not only to, be healthy yourself, but it's going to have a big impact on those you're around. So I'm going to get myself out of the way, and I'm going to bring Brandy. Can you give her a hand? Should be on.
Okay.
And this is right and left, so if you go right.
Okay, cool. Because I got slides. I'm fancy. So yeah, like Jeff said, he ended up showing me this when I was going to college, and I was actually looking into going into urban forestry. I worked for the DNR all throughout high school for a conservation camp, which is funny because when he first heard it, he thought I said concentration camp, and he's like, oh wow, that's interesting. I'm like, no, wrong one. But he ended up showing me this, and it just completely messed me up. So when people ask how exactly did he get you to move down to Indiana, I was like, he messed me up. I had to leave. So I was actually talking to these two fine ladies. I've been here for 4 years. I actually grew up in a town of 40 people in northern Wisconsin. So I had 3 options. I could work on a farm, I could work at the cheese factory, or I could be a waitress, and those were my only 3 options. So I went to college because my mom said, she's like, normally if we lived anywhere else, I would not make you go to college, but since we live in a small town, if you don't get out of here, you'll never leave. So my mom wanted bigger, better things for me, and actually I wanted bigger, better things because at one point I remember picking rock in the middle of the field. Does everybody know what that is? And I was like, I am out here literally picking up rocks, and it is 95 degrees outside, and I am making $20 a day. Ugh. Like, I'm like, there's got to be something better than this. So right away, I was ready to get out and try something new. So when Jeff showed me this, it completely messed up my money, which was a good thing. I'm like, no, if there is something I need to learn, I want to learn it now. Because while I'm young, I want to get this going and I want to do it right. So I got started, moved down here. Eventually, we did go into getting our doctor of naturopathy. He technically got started before me, but I was the one who made the decision that I was starting before him. So just to clarify. I am a Reiki master, and I do own and manage 317 Holistic Health, and we do massage, Reiki, and health consulting. So Jeff mentioned that I'm going to be talking a little bit about health today, and there's really 5 areas of health I want to cover. I think Americans have really gotten away from the basics of health, and we don't know what that is due to advertising, the media, and things that we're taught. Does anyone have an idea of what the 5 areas of health is?
Mental, emotional,
Mental,
spiritual,
and emotional, spiritual all fit in one. What's another one?
physical.
Physical, so fitness, exercise.
what you eat or
Yep,
how you.
nutrition.
Nutrition.
Oh, chemistry, structure, and psychology? Emotional?
That would all kind of fit into the emotional, and what are the other ones?
You
No?
stumped us.
Exercise.
Stumped you. Water.
Hydration.
Okay, so we got the mental, we got the fitness, we have water, what was the other one that we did?
Nutrition.
Nutrition, what's the last one?
Exercise.
Sleep?
Sorry, you said that.
Sleep, yes, you got it.
I was gonna say, don't ask her who wants to sleep.
Yeah.
It's me.
We already got it.
Sleep, the one thing that everybody's like, huh?
I don't know how to do it.
Are we all that worn out after everything
Yes.
else we talked about? So yes, you guys all got it. We do. First, I'm gonna cover hydration. We have nutrition, fitness, and sleep and emotional. So we're gonna dive right into that. So 60%, the body is made up of 60% of water. And how much water do people usually drink?
Not enough.
2 bottles
Not
a day.
enough. So you can go about 30 days without eating, you can go about 10 days without sleeping, but you can only go 3 to 5 days without water. The body requires water that is 100% hydrogen and oxygen, free of chemicals and inorganic minerals. Steam distilled water, pure H2O, or reverse osmosis is usually the best that is recommended. And the myth, any liquid would do. So with the water that we have today, I'm just gonna swipe this. This is what we were able to find that was the best. It's purified water with added minerals for taste. But did you know that your body cannot actually assimilate those minerals? So the reason being, you actually need plants to be able to get your minerals. So the plants absorb the minerals out of the ground, and then you eat the plant, and that's how you get your minerals. You can't absorb them.
So Bess's liquid over there is probably best.
Juice.
Or juice, I'm sorry.
Juices.
I was gonna say green stuff, but that didn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
If they call it green stuff, it'd probably,
Yeah.
sell better than anything else.
It's true.
So, hydration. 4% of water loss is muscle endurance diminishes and you get dizzy. 5% of water loss, headaches begin, and loss of concentration. Sorry, my eyes are a little bad. So, 6% of water loss, your body temperature is affected and the heart begins to race. 7% of water loss and you will collapse. 2% dehydration and can cause 20% decline in performance, and 5% dehydration can cause 30% decline in performance. So especially like this is why I wanted to bring this up when we're talking about business. We get busy with phone calls, running around meeting people, and if you're not taking care of yourself, how is your performance going to be speaking and working with people if you can't focus?
Not good.
Yeah, not very good at all. So water is very important. Like Jeff and I constantly run around with water bottles all the time, and which is why you'll always see us running out to go pee. So experts recommend that you should drink half of your body weight in ounces per day. Now, if you were to have a cup of coffee, what does coffee do when you drink it?
Dehydrating.
Exactly. So for every cup of coffee that you drink, you need to drink 2 bottles of water to flush all that out. So that's what keeps me to my 1 cup of coffee a day. I'm like, oh, if I drink another cup, I gotta drink four bottles of water, and I don't really want to do that. So drink more water. And now we get to come to the fun one, nutrition, as we keep snacking on some candy. But I like to keep it to an 80-20. 80% of the time I eat very, very well. The other 20% of the time I'm gonna eat some Almond Joys. So food is not whatever you can fit in your mouth. Not all food is created equal. If you're gonna make a burger at home opposed to eating at McDonald's, which one do you think has the most nutrients?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, depending on where you get it from. I grew up on a farm, so that I have a completely different point of view of fresh and with meats and vegetables, which actually brings me to a little bit of my background more of my background and story. Since I did grow up on a farm, I did eat a majority of stuff that was healthy, but unfortunately, I also ate a lot of stuff that wasn't healthy because my dad was the single dad, and he let me eat cake for breakfast.
Hey, you got dairy, eggs, you got all.
Yeah, he's like, that's
Got all the
exactly
food
what he
groups.
said too. It's got eggs in it, it's got milk in it, it's gotta be healthy, you can have that for breakfast, and that's just what my dad thought. He also thought that mashed potatoes, instant mashed potatoes were real mashed potatoes, and stuff came in a box, which wasn't real food, it was just food-like substances. So as I got older, I started to have really bad acne around 11 years old. I had blood pockets underneath my skin that spread all the way up my cheeks, and it was all black and blue. Now, I went to the dermatologist, and they were like, we could try this medication, worked for a little bit, then it didn't work, and I probably tried 5 or 6 medications. The next medicine that they wanted to put me on was one that was gonna either make me infertile and I would not be able to have children, or my children would have serious birth defects. So I stepped back and I was like, this is just acne. Why? Why would I want to put that in my body? And then I was having other issues on top of it. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm throwing it all away and you're not gonna see me in here. I'll just have bad skin. I don't care anymore. Which was kind of sad at the same time because it really was bad. I still have a lot of scars. I actually have one here on my shoulder that a lot of people are like, what is that? So, which is kind of funny. It's always a fun conversation piece. But it was like, okay, I'm done. And then later, as I started getting older, when I was in college, I started having issues with my ovaries as well. And again, going to the doctor, they put me on the medication, which funny enough, I was actually put on the wrong medication and had to come back, which was not pretty. I'm usually a pretty patient person, but I learned I'm really not so friendly when I'm in pain though. I'm typically very nice, but I was just like, what are you people doing? So after all of that, I was like, oh my God, what the heck am I gonna do with all this? And then I actually ended up meeting Jeff, and Jeff has already said that he at one point went through cancer, and then once you pretty much have that scare, you change everything that you look at and what you're doing. So he actually started looking at my habits, and he's like, Brandy, you do realize that this, and this is making you have issues with your skin and all these other things. It's all linked together. I didn't believe him. I fought it because I was raised that milk was good for me. I was raised on a dairy farm too, and you can't tell a dairy woman that they can't have milk until I figured it out with going through our doctorate program, and I was just like, okay, milk is really not that good for me, because what it does, it actually creates a lot of inflammation and mucus in the body, which was explaining I was drinking 3 glasses of milk a day when I was home, and that was creating all the issues with my skin. Yes, that's
May I just say that raw milk has the opposite effect,
it's
just
all
for education?
raw milk, whole milk, all milk does the same thing. Now, it's not saying that you can't ever have milk, it's just you need to control the quantity of it, because too many people consume way too much. There is no balance. You can have it, but too much of anything can be a problem. Like, what is the word? Spinach. Spinach is really good. You can eat spinach every day of the week and for an entire year, but you're still missing key nutrients that you need for your body to function. Spinach is good for you, but if you're not getting enough of what you need, you're gonna have problems either way. So it's finding that balance. I'm not saying people shouldn't ever drink milk. It's just quantities. Because since it does have that, because you do need a little bit of acidity in the body for your body to function, but you just don't want it too much. Does that make sense, Bess?
Mm-hmm.
But good. I like that.
Were you drinking raw milk or what kind of milk?
I would drink milk right fresh out of the tank. Because that's how we did it. Right from the cow. We would actually go over with a jug and I would scoop it out at my aunt's house and I would just drink it like that. Oh, you don't like that? That's like the best type of milk. I love it.
So the pasteurization, how does that affect milk?
the
Because I have some friends that-
pasteurization. We could actually get into that afterwards, we can talk
Okay.
about that, but we're gonna go back into this.
We can go to IHOP and you can actually see it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm just
No.
okay.
But anyway, I ended up looking more into this, and again, I was saying I was having ovarian issues, and I had been in and out of the hospital for 6 months. Nobody could figure out what was wrong. Once we figured out what was wrong, I hadn't finished my doctorate program yet, but we have another woman in our office who's finished, and I went to her, and I knock on her door, I'm like, Mama Amy. I call her my mom occasionally because she does actually take care of me when I need something, and when I need like older woman guidance occasionally, I'm like, I need help. And what they could not figure out in 6 months, she actually helped me in 3 days, and it was completely gone. And that was with how much water I was drinking and my nutrition. That's it, no drugs.
Yeah, knowing you for 4 years, just watching the complexion off, is just amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, Will saw and
Yeah.
know me since day one.
it's amazing.
So we're gonna get back into this. So nutrition is two things, consumption and assimilation. Consumption is what you take in, and assimilation is what you're gonna absorb and what you're gonna use. The best nutrition is healthy, organic, non-GMO, natural diet. So as clean as you can possibly get it. Not everybody has the option of coming home with fresh meat from your parents' house like I do. But you gotta, you can study these things and figure out where you can buy these. I recommend Fresh Time or Trader Joe's. They have wonderful meats and they're pretty good about their products. However, due to the years of advertising and convenience, false, misleading labeling, most people are not eating the food, but food-like substances. So my rule is I don't eat anything that comes out of a box or anything that needs to be microwaved.
No mind.
I don't actually even own a microwave, which some people are like, what? I'm like, if it can't be heated up in my oven, I don't need it. So the average woman needs to eat about 1,200 to 1,800 calories to maintain, and about 300 to 500 less to lose 1 pound a week. Yes,
Can you say that again, please?
yes.
I can't see that screen.
The average American woman needs to eat about 12,000 to
1,200.
1,200.
12,000, yes! I'm on track.
We
I'll
have
take it.
finished.
So, 1,200 to 1,800. I can't talk anymore. To 1,800 calories to maintain, and about 300 to 500 less to lose 1 pound per week. Did you get all that?
Yeah, I did, thank you.
Awesome.
Deep breaths now.
And we're not gonna forget about you men. So men usually need to eat about 1,800 to 2,400 calories to maintain, and about 300 to 500 less to lose 1 pound a week. So men, obviously you need a little bit more, but that's usually the numbers. So a lot of times people will tell me weight loss is hard, but really weight loss is just creating the what's the word I'm looking for? The habit. Because habits are really hard to break. We all know that that's hard to break, and if you have to change some things that you're doing in your day-to-day life, this is where it becomes hard. It's really numbers, but it's really just the habits that are hard to break. Nutritional needs depend on many things like exercise, stress, blood sugar levels, illness, growth stages, age, and I can't see.
Metabolic rate.
There we go, thank you. Their little lightning bolt was throwing me off right there. And now we're coming to fitness and exercise, our favorite thing to talk about.
Can I give everybody a formula real quick on the whole weight loss thing? If you guys want, a friend of mine showed me this. It's actually math. So he's like, there's a difference between weight loss and health, right? Everybody knows this, right? Because you can actually technically eat 3 French fries a day and lose weight, but is it healthy? No. So basically, a pound is about 3,500 calories. So that 300 to 500 is where they're getting that. That's enormous. So what you have to do is find out what your macro intake, like this is basically what you,
Macro.
Huh?
Macro.
You got
Macro?
Marco.
You got Marco.
Polo.
Macro.
Macro.
C before R. There
There you
There we
go. Just letting you know.
Burn. So you're gonna burn a certain amount. So whatever this number is, it's subtracted by 3 to 500. So you can either eat 3 to 500 less, or what can you do?
Exercise.
Exercise.
There we go. Thank you, Jeff.
Macro minus burn.
Yep, I'll let you write that down.
So whatever your intake is that you burn on a daily basis. So you can actually, there's a couple different tests you can do to find out what your body burns in one day. Somebody trying to get in? No. What your body burns in one day. Once you find what your body burns in one day, you can actually subtract that number by 300 to 500 calories, depending on how fast you want to go. But think about it. If you have to burn 3,500 to burn 1 pound, do the math on what you have to do to, burn. How many days will it take at 300 calories a day, deficient? How long does it take to burn one pound?
He says 10.
10.
3,500,
About 10.
about 10, 12 days. So technically, losing a pound every week actually would take more like 500 calories. Or you can split it 250 less and 250 working out. That's why a program like Insanity is insane. Some of the workouts, they burn up to 1,100 calories in one day. So in 3 days, you can accomplish what it would take. And I don't recommend it going that fast. We have a friend who did the math on this, and he's like, well, I want to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And he did. He went to a 500 calorie diet. So he was burning about 1,500 calories a day.
Is that healthy?
I was gonna say that.
Here's the thing.
You better go to the doctor first.
Here's the thing. Is it healthy compared to being 30 pounds overweight? How long 30 pounds? Basically 30 to 35 pounds overweight puts you in the category of obesity. Obesity clicks off a bunch of stuff she's going to talk about in a minute. So he made a very good point. He's like, I know that if I don't see the effect of this right now, I'm not going to do it. So I would rather do it all at once and then go to maintain than do it over a year. And part of it was the positivity. He said when he started losing weight, within 5 days he had lost so many pounds. People are like, oh my gosh, you're like, you look different already. What are you doing? And he said, I'm basically eating, and here's how he did it. He ate shrimp and celery. Not the best diet in the world. I wouldn't suggest it together, but he was kind of bouncing back and forth between those two and almonds.
Wow.
But she points out something, pretty important, that depending on, probably your age and stress level and everything else, if you do something that heavy, that extreme.
He was
you
32.
probably could die from it.
He was 32.
Yeah, so-
Being 30 pounds overweight for 10 years is worse than doing something that extreme that fast.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe, yeah, but you can't get those 10 years back.
Yeah.
And so, abusing yourself like that for a month,
But when you're 30,
But,
can't,
yeah.
well, it
And
depends
you
on
are
how long
right.
you have been
should-
abused.
A lot of
or
people should
obese.
check with the doctor
Always check with
first
the doctor,
before you do anything that is extremely extreme. Anytime
Yeah.
that you're going through a cleanse or intense workouts, and honestly with the intense workouts, I tell people, I'm like, get yourself up there first
Yeah.
and then do it. But don't just jump into it, because I've been doing heavyweight exercises since high school, and Insanity kicks my butt, to be perfectly honest, and I've been doing this for years. I've been laying on the floor once we're done, and I'm like, can I go home now? And I want some eggs. I'm hungry. So according to the analysis by the CDC, inactivity was associated with more than 9 million cases of cardiovascular disease in 2001 and cost nearly $24 billion. Isn't that nuts? So, exercise controls weight, combats health conditions and diseases, improves mood, boosts energy, promotes better sleep, and comes in thousands of forms. So exercise can be, I tell people I like them to break a sweat if they're gonna exercise. If you're not breaking a sweat, you're not doing enough, which some people don't like to do that, but I like to push buttons. So if you like to ride bike, make sure you're breaking a sweat. If you like to run, break a sweat. lifting, whatever you're doing. One of my teachers actually likes to use this. He hates the word exercise. He's like, we don't say the E word. He's like, we say fun, sweaty activity. Nobody likes the word exercise, so he likes to use fun, sweaty activity, which actually I love too. I'm like, oh yeah, because now it sounds fun and now we all want to go do it. He's like, I don't care how you're doing it, just make sure you're sweating and you're having a good time. So the IDEA program should include aerobic, anaerobic, static, and stretching. Stretching is very important when you're starting to be more active because you want your muscles to be able to recover and you feel better, honestly, and you'll recover a lot faster. 68% of the United States is overweight and 34% is obese. Wow. I think a lot of us kind of knew that. We always hear like the United States is very overweight, but it's very shocking when you actually look at the numbers. So the best exercise for strength is weight training. Jeff and I actually love to do powerlifting, so you'll see us at the gym at 3 a.m. I don't recommend it to everybody, but that's just because we're crazy and that's just what we prefer. We're actually accused of being vampires by a friend of ours. He's like, I never see you out during the day. He's like, see you in the gym when I'm like just getting up and you guys are like about to head to bed, like that's great. So the best weight loss is high intensity interval training, HIIT. Leading causes of death over 50 are heart attack, cancer, and stroke. And on average, those that work out earn $25,000 more each year. Does anyone want to know why that is?
Yeah, why?
So, Jeff?
What research showed is they're typically in things. If you're working out, you're typically in things that are more competitive, which means you're going to compete on a bigger basis, but you also have the energy to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
So, like in business, you need the energy to be able to go out and do these things. So that's where that leads to. If you got the energy to really push and get to where you want to go, that's the result. And now we get to talk about sleep. Sleep deprivation causes changes in hormones that regulate hunger and appetite. Lack of sleep, it reduces the hormone leptin, which is responsible for suppressing your appetite. So did you know, if you don't get enough sleep, you are actually more likely to overeat?
I know.
Oh, yeah. Now, what do you think you're going to be craving when you're tired?
Sugar.
Sugar,
Salt.
because your body, more so sugar, because you're going to need the energy because your body's trying to make up for it because you're trying to run around and do stuff. Your body's like, I need sugar to get me through the day at least until we can go to
Chocolate-covered
bed.
pretzels.
Ice cream,
Coffee.
coffee,
Yeah,
coffee.
Yes.
Starbucks, yeah.
Starbucks, yes. Everybody likes to go to
Sugar.
Starbucks. Lack of sleep side effects. High blood pressure increases risk of stroke, increases risk of heart disease and neuropathy. Lack of sleep also affects decision making, solving problems, controlling your emotions, and coping with stress. So, how many people have tried to have a little kid's birthday party?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Now, if you're tired and having a bad day, how great is that little kid's birthday party?
Oh, wow.
It's just like, okay, we just need to get this done, and then all you kids need to go outside and you need to go play, go do something, just get out of my hair. Or at least, I don't know about you, but that was my mother. She shooed us outside. She's like, okay, cake, now out. Go run around and play. So, sleep easier by exercising. Stop using your technology an hour before you go to bed. No caffeine 3 to 5 hours prior to bed. No sugar 2 to 5 hours before bed. How many of us like to look at our phones before we go to sleep?
Yes, your hand up.
She called you out.
I'm the one who tells her though.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
but he's
okay.
guilty too, don't let him
Now,
fool you.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm really bad at this too because I handle a lot of the marketing for our business, but sometimes I actually do have to remind myself, I'm like, you need to put your phone away or you're not gonna be able to fall asleep. Now, who knows why you shouldn't be looking at your phone before you go to bed?
Cause
It-
The blue light.
The blue light.
the blue light.
It also stops your melatonin production.
Yep, we actually have a gland right here on our forehead, so when we're staring at that screen, that gland is being told that it's daytime and that it's time to stay awake. So you're not actually gonna be able to fall asleep, it's gonna take a lot longer, rather than if you just went to sleep when the sun goes down, because human beings are meant to go to bed when the sun goes down, and that's what mellows us out, and then we can go to sleep. But as soon as you bring out that light, you're gonna be awake for a while.
That's why.
So maybe I should tell my neighbor, his
Yeah.
bedroom is right out my back door and it just glows blue.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I'm not exaggerating either. I mean,
You're not up against the window looking in. It's
no,
just
I
you have
mean,
numb.
it's glowing bright blue, man.
So the best recovery when you start doing a lot of exercise is 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It's best. Now that kind of varies on each person. Naturally, women usually have to have a little bit more sleep than men, which I remind Jeff of that every day when he tries to wake me up early, and I'm like, no, I need to sleep longer. And new studies show that, yep, and I already said that, because I remind Jeff about it all the time. Or I take a cat nap, which works too. So our emotions are an expression of inward phenomenon known as feelings, which is an expression of physical and psychological perceptions concerning our being. So emotions play a huge part in our health. Without personal contact and physical encounters, we miss many of life's emotional experiences like friendships, love, and gratitude. So, was it you or was it James who was talking about the optimistic and the pessimistic person? I think it was James. He was talking about, anywho. So he was talking about, like having a better outlook on life. If you're very positive, like my glass is half full or my glass is half empty, that's gonna have a lot to do with how you're gonna work with people, and it's gonna affect your health, because if you're constantly like, oh, you're like Eeyore, oh, I'm okay. I
Yeah,
think of
yeah.
Eeyore like that, but if people who are a lot more upbeat tend to have better health. So, pessimistic is sick twice as often as optimistic person. I kind of touched on that. Pessimists go to the doctors twice as much as optimists, and they see the glass as half empty instead of half full. Or wait, no.
No, you got that back.
I got that backwards. You see the glass as half full or half empty. Which is your cup? Or which is your glass?
Half empty.
Half.